Before we break into dinner and having some good conversations and some other activities for the night, I'm going to invite a couple of the local leaders and friends that we've built here. Charissa Wagner from Taylor Morrison, Shannon Taylor from Lowe. If you please join me, I'd love to have a little fireside. Your businesses and in your lives, and how you are all setting examples as rebel leaders in this community and what you're doing. So,
sure.
Thank you for being here. First off, why don't you just tell a bit about yourselves before we jump into the discussion?
Hi, my name is Charissa Wagner. I just put C on here because Charissa is really hard and everybody calls me C at work. So, and I've been with Taylor Morrison for 13 years. I'm the SVP of People, Operations, Acquisition, and Development. And we are, we're a home builder, and we're in 10 different states. We have around 3,000 employees. We also have a mortgage company. And I would say our CEO is the real reason I'm still there after as many years as I am. She definitely puts people first in an industry that is very old. And, not very innovative. We've been building houses the same way for 100 plus years. She definitely understands that it's people, and if you have happy employees, you have happy customers. And a few years ago, I'd say like 3 or 4 years ago, we went around the entire country and we rolled out our Love the Customer philosophy, and it was all about loving the external as well as the internal customer. And Cheryl really knew that using the word love in a male-dominated and especially kind of such a historic industry was probably going to be very uncomfortable for a lot of people, but it has really stuck, and I think it speaks a lot to what our culture is.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Nice. I don't know how I'm going to follow that. I am Shannon Taylor. I'm the Senior Director of Talent Acquisition for Lowe's. I'm sure each and every one of you have been to Lowe's, and if not, I need you to go there right now. No. So I oversee our supply chain business, our corporate business, our tech business, our early talent business. And I've been with Lowe's. I recently joined Lowe's about 90 days ago. Prior to that, led talent acquisition for Republic Services based here in the Phoenix area, and had done that for about 3.5 years or so. And just really excited to talk about talent acquisition. I know that's a hot topic in today's market, right? There's not enough people and a whole lot of jobs, and so I'm looking forward to the conversation. And and thanks for having me, Derek.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks, Derek.
Absolutely, thanks for being here. Yeah, so my first question, if you can take it, is what are you excited about just to start the year? We're here in January. It's been a couple of years of constant change, adaptations, unexpected challenges. What are you excited about in 2022?
Ooh.
I'll let you go.
Oh, man. So in the talent acquisition space, I would say I am truly excited about the possibility of what can be. For years and years and years and hundreds of years, it's always been a market where employers were in the driver's seat. And in this market today, it's the candidates who have choice. And so what that does is it creates innovation in how we do our work today, and how you can impact an organization in a very different way that was very different from what was before. So just really excited about just thinking of innovative ways to attract talent, keep talent, and push the needle with businesses and leaders outside of their comfort zone is something I'm really excited about.
Well, I'm excited that the Supreme Court put a stay on the OSHA ETS, but okay, besides that. Because we've been up to our eyeballs in that for the past couple weeks. I'm really excited. Similar to what Shannon's talking about, we as an organization have not traditionally been and even as an industry, have not traditionally been very innovative. I like to think out of the box. I like to kind of figure out ways to do things differently, challenge the status quo. And with this, I guess, kind of forced, working remotely, and it's basically gotten to a point where, had the pandemic not happened, I don't know that we ever would have fully embraced a hybrid work style. And on top of that, I don't know that we would ever have sold now over 1,000 homes virtually, where literally the buyer never walked through a house, never looked at a model, everything was online. Similar like a Carvana, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's where the the retail industry is going. And I'm just super excited. Our CEO, Cheryl, has really embraced that. She is very excited about what we can be doing more on the digital front and how we can be embracing innovation. And I'm just super excited for that change because we've kind of been stuck in that status quo for a very long time.
So how are you blending now the remote and live in-person work environment? I mean, I think it's a big question. You're both in the business of physical spaces, retail spaces, homes. And I know that's been a question we've all gone remote. How are you dealing with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's particularly in the business where, whether it's in the home building business or in the retail business, the in-person act of what we do is part of our business, right? With our retail locations or how, when you're laying foundations or putting roofs on homes and laying down, those are in-person roles. And so, in our organization, we're working through kind of that hybrid mix, right? We know that there's a sort of our population or part of our population that is going to be in person. And how do we make sure that they are safe and that we're taking the precautions for them? But also, when we flip that to more of our, let's call it in-office roles or, more of those non-frontline roles, how do we shift with the market, right? Because there's a lot of people wanting to work from home. There are leaders that have always wanted people into the office. It's how you marry those two together. And that's a lot of conversation, and some of it's driven by the need of the market, where it's pushing businesses to do things that they're just really not comfortable with doing, but they're learning that it can be really efficient and effective. And so it's really just one, making sure you raise your hand and say, we got to try something different, be brave, be bold, but also it's one of those things where you have to say, you got to let the business fail to find out that they got to do something differently. And sometimes that necessity breeds the creativity. Yeah. And when you find those moments is when you have to step in and act, right? And that's kind of how we've been dealing with it.
Yeah. I would say for us, it really is a focus on the leadership and leading with empathy. I think all of us know how emotionally charged this pandemic has been, and it has really created a divide between whether or not I want to be vaccinated or I don't, and there's a lot of political and religious, smoke around all of that. And so what we've really tried to do is just say, hey, we're an organization that you get a personal choice, and that's what makes being an American great. You get to decide what you want personally, and when you're at work, we're going to treat everyone with respect and dignity. And but you've got leaders that also have one opinion over the other, and so really trying to create an environment where we remind them that we're all people and we respect everybody's choices, and again, kind of leading with empathy and creating that psychological safety. And that's really going to be a continued focus for us because we haven't come back to the workplace yet, right? Yeah. We will probably look to do that in February, March timeframe in our new hybrid schedule, and that'll be a focus for the following year.
I was going to ask both of you, how is that concept of employee choice, both for new employees that you're recruiting as well as for the people that they now have the choice of where they want to stay or put their investment in their time? How is that affecting your talent strategy in that regard?
No, go ahead, Jerry.
I would tell you, I mean, the employee choice creates a wrinkle that businesses haven't figured out yet, and there is no one size fits all. When you think about, you have to almost get prescriptive in how you sort of create flexibility within work, right? So, for example, our tech group, and for us to be competitive in the tech space and attract top tech talent, we've created a flexible workforce where if you want to be in the Charlotte area and work in our tech hub, that's where we would love for you to be. But if you love where you live and you don't mind traveling as needed, then you stay where you are, right? We've had to open up our talent pools and do things differently than ever before. And then you flip that, right? And I'll speak, to my team specifically is, I lead a team of 75 talent acquisition folks, whether they're coordinators or recruiters or direct managers or directors. And so what I've sort of put in place is saying, hey, if you lead people And that means you're a part of my leadership team, right? And so I need you to be in an arm's reach, not necessarily in the office every day, but we need some flexibility where we can come together as a leadership team, because I believe that's where creativity happens. That's where you get a lot of, you make that camaraderie, and ultimately you can really impact how you deliver against the business. And so it's not a one size fits all. You got to figure out what drives the market, and then be okay with pivoting as well.
Yeah, we've so our mortgage side of the house, we definitely embraced hybrid. Otherwise, you weren't going to be able to get the talent that you needed. And just as kind of a point of reference, we closed 500 homes in the last 2 days of December. So in the month of December, it was well over, I think, 800, 900, which is very extensive for us based on our size. And so mortgage, I think we're in 28 different states now from the mortgage side of the house. It's the builder side that really wasn't wanting to embrace it. And I think, with this, we've seen trying to get talent, we've been forced to really look at where people can work, how they can get work done, and the jobs that really do allow them. A superintendent is difficult. They are the ones that really are on, at the home when it's being built, making sure all the trades are showing up, making sure things are being done the way they're supposed to be done. And that's a little more difficult for them to be remote, but we did embrace it with our salespeople right away. I think going forward, it's definitely as a competitive tool. I was just talking to Kristen, who's on my team, on the way over, and I was like, why can't we create a hybrid schedule for superintendents? I mean, they sit in their truck or they sit in the trailer. At least probably a day a week we could find that work that they're doing, and that could be a competitive advantage for us, because other home builders aren't touting a hybrid schedule for superintendents. But it's really like, so why can't we do that? Let's figure that out. But you have to, because we're trying to grow in talent in other places. Yeah. So we piloted a trainee program where we got military vets that have never built a house, have never been in home building, and they're going through an 8-week training program to then go into a superintendent position. And so that's a pilot that's happening now. And we might look even internally at other employees who might want to be a superintendent but have never built a house and thought they couldn't even apply for that. If we've got that type of program, we can start looking in all kinds of areas for talent that we wouldn't have today.
And I think that's exactly what organizations have to do, right? If you think about the shortage of talent, we were talking earlier, and I sort of compared it to the home industry, right? And so how many, if I raise your quick hand, let me see if I can see everyone. If you raise your hand, how many of you have been house shopping in this market? Anybody? Okay. How many of you have seen the exact house that you want and got your first offer in? Right? And so one of the things that you do is you say, okay, well, the house that I want is going to cost $100,000. And 3 years ago when I looked at it, it was $100,000, and I thought that was a value, but I didn't want to buy right now. So 3 years later, I go to that same house, it's $400,000, and nothing changed in that house. Same kitchen, same backyard, same ugly pool, like whatever, right? And so you then make a decision to yourself, which says, do I go out and spend the additional $400,000, or do I look at the existing home that I have today and upgrade it? And I think as organizations, what we have to do now is to look at our existing people that we have and decide, how do we build skills internally, right? So now you create a pipeline of talent through college programs, trade programs, high school programs, but also looking at folks that are non-traditional in roles and provide them opportunities. And see, to give you an example, we were talking earlier, is my first job out of college was a superintendent for Pulte Homes. And I can tell you, the day they hired me, I had never built a home a day in my life. If you asked me how to put a roof on, I thought they just come, they drop it on, life is good. But through that, they taught me how the process, they gave me a schedule, and 3 years later, I could tell you how to build a house from top to bottom and give you a schedule and build a house in 45 days. Done. Boom. But that's because as organizations, you got to think differently, that people don't come in with the skills. You hire for attitude.
Besides just skilling them and giving them the opportunity to upgrade their business skills, how are you addressing the human being as well, right? The concept of what their emotional health, the prolonged fatigue, the uncertainty, all the different elements that happen outside the office, quote unquote, in their other room, right?
Yeah.
How are you now accommodating that, and how are you recruiting and preserving the entire family as part of your talent strategy?
Well, what I would say is, or Shannon, do you have something?
No.
Okay. What I would say is, we just continue to hopefully, we do a daily huddle. So, and luckily we started the huddle when we did the whole Love the Customer rollout. And that has really kept us very connected. And the corporate communications is the one that does a lot of the content for the huddle. And we sorry, I forgot. I talked with my hands. We actually are also able to give content for the huddle. And so a lot of that is like just reminders to the entire organization, and that communication can happen across the entire organization. And we do talk about, giving grace and having empathy. But I think, we were talking about this earlier, Derek. I was reading a business case, and these are some of the things that we're going to have to really look at and try and get our leaders on board with. But there is a company, and the name is escaping me now, but they did that. They realized how in today's world, it's not just your employee, it is actually your employee and their family. That it is really an extension of the employee. And so they, as an example, they created an internship program specifically for the children of those employees. And so they would have a group of them come intern. They were young; they weren't of working age yet, or maybe they were graduating high school, I think. And so they, keeping the family very connected to the company. And I think we're going to have to start thinking about things in those terms for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's spot on. And as if folks are in benefits and things like that, I've seen a shift in benefits that are inclusive of the entire family, and also leaning in toward that mental health, whether it's they're providing access to the Calm platform, or you can get get counseling, and you get these free sessions. Empathy and leading and having leaders be empathetic to their employees' challenges, and being flexible to what their needs are. And pushing the fact that they should use the PTO that they have, right? And not making them feel bad about it, right? Are some of just the little things that I think companies are having to do. I've even seen where, with folks, let's call it, with the big thing about women leaving the workforce, right? Companies supplementing the use of care.com to find childcare so that women can come back into the workplace. And organizations are looking at, do we build childcare on site? Right? When all of those sort of things, I think, are evolving quickly to sort of get to that point where you can bring your whole self to work. And I really do think that with the pandemic and the remote workforce that forced a lot of us to go back home, one of the things about connection is being in a safe space. And although we've been all on video, we've all been in our safe space. So we've all kind of seen, Mark's background, right? We know what Mark's office looks like, or we know someone's dog, or we know their baby screaming in the background, or their husband works out on the Peloton behind them on or whatever. But because of that, those are the things that when we come to work in traditional settings, I always said was we brought the work person through the door. And then we took the work person off when we walked out the door. And working from home over the last 2 years, that person is in the same place. And so that has really knocked down a lot of barriers and gotten companies to think differently around how can they keep that connection and engagement through different benefits and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's going to continue to be an expectation now as we go forward. And I think one of the best things about the pandemic has been the speed by which, when there's a will for change, we can change very, very quickly. And this whole experience has taught us that we have the chance to rewrite everything. We can rebuild, recreate, create anew, and do it better and more effectively. And I think the ability to throw out all of our assumptions and to personalize the employee experience, the company experience, to match the values and create new agreements between companies and people is real. You were talking about this. This is a total shift from how it's been done for the last decades, right? And so
100%.
business can play a big change, and a big role in
Yeah.
change. You want to say
Yeah.
something, Charissa?
No, I was just going to say, yeah, we need to be less location-centric and more human-centric, and really, again, just making sure that an employee feels like they are, if they're not at their desk or they're not in front of their leader, and leaders feel this way too, that it doesn't mean they're not working or they're not contributing, and allowing people to work when they best work. I'm a morning person, right? I normally will be in bed in about a half hour. So if my head hits the table but I'm awake at 5. I wake up at 5 o'clock, and that's when I tend to do my best work. And as the day goes on, I get a little less. So I need to take breaks. I need to go get up and walk. I walk when I'm home. I'll go walk the dogs. But when I'm at the office, I'd like to just go walk around. So I think it's just making sure that you're creating an environment where people don't feel like they have to be sitting in front of their computer the entire time, and they can't work the schedule that best suits their, the way they work.
I will tell you, you bring up an excellent point, which is the candidates and employees now want flexibility. Mm-hmm. Right? You think about, there's this big question that's always out there. It's like, where did all the employees go? Where all the people go? And it's because they work when they want to work now. The gig economy is real. And where people say, I don't feel like working today, so I don't work. Or if I feel like working, I'm going to flip on my Uber app. I'm going to go work for 4 hours, right? And then I'm going to turn that off, and then I'm going to go work through some virtual job on my computer for another couple of hours when I feel like it. And, as companies sort of evolve in this space, you've got to figure out, one of the big questions I asked the other day is like, how do we get to a point where people come to work as long as we get the hours that we need to get the jobs done, how do we break up the work so that, one person works 2 hours, somebody else comes in and works 2 hours, and it becomes this really fluid sort of experience that is very non-traditional. And it's very scary for folks that are very process-oriented, because it creates a lot of unpredictability in how you're going to deliver. And so it's where it's going, right? It's how do we get those folks back in, because there's a workforce that happened that didn't exist before, which is like, those what I call online earnings, right? Whether it's like through Instagram or Facebook, or I'm probably aging myself calling it Facebook, but Twitter and TikTok and all those. And so you got young people that are earning dollars, right? You got kids that are making $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, and all they're doing is creating content in the house that you pay for. Like, they don't need to go to work. So it's those things that are going to really shift the pendulum of how what work looks like.
Amazing. Well, we could spend hours talking about this. I want to open it up to the audience for a second. It was amazing people here. Does anyone have any particular question they'd like to ask, or even a story they'd like to share on some of the topics we've been covering today? I want to give
or
the
any
opportunity.
best practices or things that you guys are doing?
I'm very shy, so. In the flexible workspace environment, have you found that the concern with being remote is in the worker more, or in the manager managing that worker who is now remote?
I would say for us, it's the leader. I've seen a lot of the angst and uncertainty, and how do I lead the cultural erosion that they feel is happening, the team dynamics, the effectiveness of teams because they're not together. And there's some truth to that, right? There does need to be a balance where, it would be great that every Wednesday everybody's going to commit that they're going to be in the office, or they're going to, be available for team events, meetings, whatever that might be. But for us as an organization, and I don't know if others, have something different where they are, but for us, it's mostly the leader. The employees are happy to be. I would say there is a handful of employees that have literally never left the office. I think they've been in the office every day since the pandemic, and that's just how they like to work. But that's a smaller population compared to those that were either because they wanted to, or they were forced to because they had kids at home, or they, there was reasons that people had to figure out how to work from home.
I mean, I've seen the same thing where with the pandemic, it removed all of the excuses, because, when you think about some roles, leaders would say, we can't do this because of that, and we can't do this because of that. And so it's a lot of kind of that you have to be willing to give up something. And I'll give you a perfect example, Scott, is I started a new role remotely. And I told my wife the other day, I go, I have a new appreciation for anyone who starts a company remotely than I have ever had before. And part of it is because I get forgotten about meetings. Not everybody knows I don't know who to call. And you have to be really intentional about meeting people. And so organizations give up some of that connection, at least initially. So I think some of it is leaders and being open to trying something different, but it's also about organizations putting actions in place that engage those individuals and create intentionality, because there is a gap that happens because of working remotely and never going into the office and some other things. But there's also a level of efficiency and cost savings.
Yeah, we focus on the relationships first. So while agility is one of our values and we're trying to constantly continuous improvement, we recognize the importance of giving that employee that first 30 days to just meet people, learn about the business, understand their peers, and we give them the space and the time and don't demand from them to deliver. Like your first 60, 90 days, just listen, right? And that's what I think we need to do more of.
Yeah, no, I agree.
That's a great point.
How have you guys balanced because both of you have, like us, a very large population of workers who can't be remote. And as an organization, we have said, if you lead a group that can't be remote, quite frankly, you shouldn't be either. And we want you to be in the office to show, not every day, but like if we have retail and our retail employees are getting exposed to customers every day, they don't know where they've been, what's happening, and we've got a lot of frontline employees who don't have the luxury of some of the stuff we've talked about tonight, right? Like, I want to be remote, but my job, like, literally is in front of the customer. How have you balanced that message and the struggle with they're required to do that, but everybody else has sort of fled to their home and had the choice to do something?
Yeah, I'll say for us, we've obviously experienced that, and there's a sense of unfairness, I guess, inequity, I guess, because there are, to your point, jobs that just because of the customer interaction, they need to be face-to-face. And we are leaders of those groups, whether by choice. I think a lot of it was by choice. They've really opted to be with them in the trenches. And I think it's really having open, honest conversations and not being afraid to say what it is, right? We get it. We understand. Telling them, we get the fact that this doesn't feel fair, right? and just being open and honest and having radical candor and understanding being sensitive to the fact that in a pandemic, they've got lives outside of this company, and being flexible when they need to come in late or being flexible when they need to take a couple hours off early to go grab the kids from school, because it's again creating that psychological safety where they feel like they matter and they're valued, and we understand that they are more than just a Taylor Morrison employee, and helping the leaders to really embrace that too, because that's difficult for some of them.
Awesome.
No, I think that you hit it. That was it. I mean, we're doing the same thing, right? It's the front line of our business is the front line of our business. It's a retail location. So whether it's our associates that are in the departments, whether it's the managers or the store managers, I mean, those individuals, our front line of business is out there in the stores, traveling, doing those things. But we are also making sure that it's a safe environment and making sure things are social distance and providing the protection and putting those protocols in place. But unfortunately, the work from home is not a one size fits all, and so we try to. You have to just kind of make do what's best for those associates and make sure they feel heard. But yeah, it's not an easy answer, or
recognizing them at kind of more of the executive level. I know Cheryl was out over Christmas week typically as an organization, we close between Christmas and New Year's. For those that can do that, it never happens for the superintendents, unfortunately. And so she was out to as many communities as she could get to handing out donuts. And a lot of people went out into the field in their various divisions to just show support and just thank them. We, as much as we can at the higher levels of leadership, reach out, whether it's individually or pop into one of their meetings, just letting them know they're appreciated, and we know what they're going through, and we value them for that. And really, without them, our customers, we don't exist. So just again, I guess giving extra recognition.
Well, Charissa, thank you. Shannon, thank you. I really appreciate your time and your sharing with this audience. And thank you to all of our Rebel leaders who have joined us on different episodes throughout the last 20 months. We appreciate all of you, and thank you for all of you joining us for this evening. I hope this primed the conversation at the tables. And just as a reminder, all this content is available through the podcast, which is now available. Check it out. And if you'd like to learn more about supporting your people through LifeGuides, happy to share more about that. And thank you to the LifeGuides team, all the people that are here making this event come to life and inviting all the people to join us. This is truly a community event, and we're here in service of you and your people. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.